Hey guys, it's a steaming pile of ship here, and in today's video we'll be taking a look at the USS Montana, the Tier 10 American battleship, once more. I've done a video on it before, but it has had significant changes to the height of its citadel, resulting in much more tankiness, and I figured why not make a new video on the Montana since it has been changed quite a bit. I apologize if you can hear my fan in the background, but unfortunately, it's something like 80 degrees outside right now. I think it's like about midnight. Um, so it's pretty warm outside, and where I live, it gets fairly humid, and I don't have an AC vent in my room, so I have to pretty much rely on this fan. So if you can hear that, I'm going to try and edit it out, but if you can hear that, I do apologize. I will not apologize, however, for the 16,000 damage that we just did on our opening salvo against the enemy turrets. One of the things I mentioned, the citadel was lowered on the Montana and the Iowa and Missouri by default. People playing the German battleships kind of like to get fairly careless, I guess would be the word. We're going to use our heal here, but people using, the German battleships, they've got turtleback armor, and they think it's so great, and it certainly is a huge advantage, but as you saw, I punished that turret fairly easily because he went broadside, so that is one of the things that the German battleships, obviously, it's kind of a trade-off. They'll take very, very large amounts of non-citadel damage, if they give broadside. I think he might be turning out as I shot, but I'm not going to be able to tell because he's in smoke. But unfortunately, they do eat a lot of damage when you get, their broadside. It's just not in penetration, or not in citadel damage, it's in penetration damage. The Montana obviously is much different. It takes citadel damage, even though it does have its citadel lowered now. You take damage from broadside, and it is possible that it will be citadel damage. Not nearly as sturdy, but what the German ships have in tankiness, they lack in accuracy, and that's something that I've talked about, I think, in the other Montana video, as well as my Missouri video. The accuracy of the American battleships is very, very superior to the German battleships due to the fact that it gets access to a special module that increases its range, as well as increases the accuracy of the guns by something like 11%. So that's a fairly large buff. Even if you don't, go for a secondary build on something like the Grosse Kurfürst and you decide, well, hey, let's go ahead and try and get this ship as accurate as we can by using the right modules, you can only get 7%, I believe, with the module that every other battleship gets. So a definite advantage is this module really does help out at punishing cruisers, battleships, whatever you get broadside. It makes it much easier to harm them. And I freaked out a little bit when I saw the health pool on this Hindenburg go down. He's full health right there, and I totally thought that was me for a second, and then I looked over. We did about 9,000 damage of that, and that definitely was a feels bad sort of moment. Enemy Benson ahead is looking like he's smoking up. Looks like looks like our Fletcher is smoking up. Definitely the Fletcher, not the Benson. But we noticed that he launched torps, so we want to start turning in here. I did take a shot at the, I think it was the, I don't think I was shooting at the Montana, I think it was something else, the Dmitry Donskoy back there. But now I can't really see anything, so we're going to start dodging these torpedoes here. And maybe in a minute we'll get some shots off on this Tirpitz or something else. Actually, the North Carolina looks like it might be turning to be full broadside, so I think we'll go for him. I really don't know how that guy managed to hit that torpedo. I mean, he definitely had at least a minute's worth of warning. There were Benson torpedoes, and they were spotted way before they even got into that smoke screen, so I'm not quite sure how he managed to eat that, but I wasn't watching, so I don't know. A nice 18,000 damage chunk on that North Carolina, and again, the accuracy of the Montana and the Iowa, it's really easy to see just how powerful it can be when you consider that you have the accuracy module. This Edinburgh is about to also find out that the hard way, simply because he's decided to go broadside to me and he's only 10 kilometers away. And that certainly felt really good. I always love smoking the Royal Navy cruisers like that. No pun intended since they have smoke. But I love smoking those Royal Navy cruisers because they decide, hey, let's go broadside to the Montana. That is something that I tend to see happening a lot more. If you're in the Montana, it seems like people underestimate you more than they will if you're a different battleship. And we do get kind of unlucky. We probably would have been able to do some significant damage to him if we didn't hit the island there. But a lot of times I definitely think people underestimate the Montana when they're facing it simply because it's not a Großer Kurfürst or a Yamato. And I definitely think that that is the wrong decision. I'm very, very happy I did not blow my damage control party earlier because these Benson Torps managed to pop up right here, and now we needed the damage control to repair the floods. But the thing is, you should never underestimate a Tier 10 battleship. I mean, it may not be the best Tier 10 battleship, um, but it's still a Tier 10 battleship, and, you know, that's the whole thing a battleship does, is dealing damage. I don't want to give my broadside here to the North Carolina because even though I have my lowered citadel, he could probably still delete me if he wanted. So we'll try and angle a little bit, and we'll try and maybe knock out his forward turrets, although I think the aim was a little off. Yeah, unfortunately his bow just sits a little bit too high. I think I managed to bounce a few shells off of that instead of going towards his barbette. He totally would be dead if I was in the Yamato right now. It does look like we have one last turret ready to go, but in the replay file you can't see it, but I wasn't actually able to aim. Now we're able to aim, but we hit the island, so he does get lucky there. And I'm trying to reverse now because the Donskoy decided he wants to come out here, and I really don't want to be under the withering fire of a Donskoy when I have such low amount of health. We'll go ahead and pop our heal just to be sure. He does set us on fire again, but our damage control is still on cooldown for another few seconds. We will try and use that to put out these fires as soon as we get them back. That is definitely one of the main things about the Montana that does seem to suck, is you don't have the turtle back, you don't have this, you know, the straight up durability, you know, bow on as a Yamato, and you don't have the Lol Pen guns of the Yamato as well, so you do feel a little bit more squishy than some of the other Tier 10 battleships, but you are still able to shell out a lot of damage, and one of the nicer things about the damage control party on the US battleships is that it inherently lasts a little bit longer. Unfortunately, I need to make sure that I dodge these torpedoes because it didn't last quite long enough. I think I would have eaten them, but they look like they've run out. A little bit of a replay bug. We do 39,000 damage to him before the Alabama finishes him off, and that just goes to show how powerful that the Montana can be when you underestimate it. I really don't think that guy figured I'd be much of a threat. Either that or he wasn't looking for me. Very possible because their other ships on this side of the map have started to run. Unfortunately, this is kind of where the replay starts to get a little bit more boring. Our positioning was less than stellar, I would say. I mean, it worked out well for this match because we had so many ships go on this side of the islands here, but you can see I'm fairly cut off as we nail a Montana in the Citadel. I'm fairly cut off from the rest of the battlefield. We'll use our last heal, and then I do want to start pushing in here. One thing I do need to mention is the Montana, much like the Iowa, is actually fairly quick. The Iowa, I think, is the fastest battleship in the game, but the Montana is no sleaze either. It does go fairly fast, and that seems to be one of the things that really make it kind of competitive. I'm trying to slow down because I'm going to turn here. Unfortunately, these were a little bit too far behind. You can see me getting a little frustrated with my misplaced shots, but we do need to start turning in here and trying to do a little bit more damage for the team because this is a game that still could go either way. We have a ton more points, and it does look like we're capping the last point. But the ship advantage is not that much more, although we do have much better, well, we have a lot more, um, our ships are more healthy, I guess would be the way to put it. I'm really expecting to get torped right here, so I popped a plane. And it looks like we're fine for now, but I certainly did not really want to go around here and eat a bunch of Fletcher torps, or excuse me, Benson torps. Now, one of the nice things about the Yamato is this Montana that I'm about ready to take a shot at. I probably would be able to kill him right now if I had the Yamato. I would just pen him straight through, or at least get a couple of superstructure hits and just take him out. But he's using his heel, and unfortunately, because of the way he's angled, we're not really going to be able to do too much. I'm trying to fire here, maybe hit him in a superstructure, just enough to weaken him so my team can finish him off. But we don't quite have the accuracy. This is still a battleship, even if it does have better accuracy than other battleships. Again, namely the Germans. But yeah, now we'll see what we can do here. And of course, just a little too short that time. I'm not sure if he's backing up, slowing down, trying to go forward again, or if he's just staying still, but the fire was kind of making it a little bit hard to see where his smokestacks were going. Again, I'm showing frustration. Finally, someone manages to kill the guy. Just think, if only I had actually been inside the, part of the battle that really mattered, I might have been able to get some more damage here. And that certainly seems to be one of the things that, again, I was talking about the Montana's speed. It does seem, when you use the speed and the amazing concealment that you can get on this ship, it seems like you can really get in and out of positions quite easily with this ship. Unfortunately, we just had a bunch of islands in the way, which prevented us from being able to fully position ourselves properly. Again, though, it was our fault for going that direction, but yeah. And now I'm just trying to finish off this Tirpitz. Of course, I've got the island in the way. Story of my life. But as soon as we get around the corner here, I'm going to try and take him out. And you saw that I was switching cameras back and forth. I think it's C is what you do to press. If you press C, it'll do that. But I was trying to see when my rear turrets had basically cleared the island, but we win the game. So it wasn't the most riveting Montana game, in my opinion at least. I think, well, something about being on a side of map that we were on definitely kind of made it seem a little bit more boring to me anyways. Hopefully you guys were a little bit more entertained. But we did do 195,000 damage, which definitely means we did our part for our team. We landed 5 citadel hits. We only sunk 1 ship, but I'd say we did, again, a fairly decent amount to help the team out. Moving on, we got 2,087 base experience, devastating strike, Confederate, dreadnought, high caliber awards. In the damage caused, 181,000 damage was the main battery, with about 13,000 being from fires that we started with the secondaries. And that's basically telling you you're a battleship, you're a Montana, your main moneymaker is the guns. We took a potential damage of 2.3 million. The actual damage we received, however, was 141,000. About half of that was high explosive and armor piercing shells, and torpedoes and fires did the rest of the damage to us. Finally, I do have the Type 20 camo, the military contributor flag, as well as I think this was I believe this was, yes, there was an event going on, so we got a ton more experience from this. So we got 300,000 silver or credits. We got 12,680 ship experience and 634 free experience. So a very good result, but once again, keep in mind all the modifiers that are in play with this result really means you won't be getting that all the time. Anyways, let's go on to the build. So as is customary, I'll go ahead and give you the nice little scenic view of the permanent camouflage that you can get for the Montana. Kind of reminds me of some of the German camos, like the Tirpitz camo or the Grosse Kurfürst camo almost, except for grays, you just kind of leave it white-ish. But yeah, I like it. Anyways, moving on to the consumables. You're a tier 10 battleship, so it should come as no surprise that you want damage control party 2 as well as repair party 2. You can easily get away with not running the premium version of the spotting or catapult fighters, but you definitely have to have the premium versions of your heal and repair. Moving on to the upgrades. Um, Most of the time, this is okay, so this is where you can kind of pick and choose. For me, I have Steven Seagal and I do not have him at 19 points yet. So I have main armaments modification 1 to keep my turrets, from being disabled a lot. If you have a 19-point captain, you could probably go for auxiliary armaments mod 1 and use preventative maintenance instead. But because I'm getting, adrenaline rush since it's incredibly buffed on this captain, I'd rather have this main armaments mod 1 before I get, until I get preventative maintenance, I guess would be the way to put it. Ugh. Anyways, AA Guns mod 2 in the second slot, no other real choice. I mean, you could get secondary build, but realistically, the Montana does better at ranges where you don't need your secondaries, so yeah. In slot number 3, Artillery Plotting Room mod 2. I can't remember if I said this gives you extra range or not, but it doesn't give you extra range. It only gives you extra accuracy. I think I might have said that it gives you range and accuracy. Only half of that was true. You do get minus 11% to the dispersion, which definitely helps your accuracy out. In the fourth row, damage control system mod 1, excuse me, really no other choice at this point, although I think they were looking at maybe test server data mine stuff, and it looks like they're going to move around some of these special modules, or it looks like it's that one, but it looks like they might be moving some of these special modules around, so who knows if this will actually become a useful slot, but right now it isn't. In the fifth row or fifth slot, steering gears modification 2. This is very, very handy for getting these rear turrets. You swing them out, take the shot, and then get back into a nice angle. Very, very helpful having the steering gears modification 2 in order to be able to do this. You do have a rudder shift time of 950 meters, rudder shift radius, turning circle radius, oh my gosh, of 950 meters. So having the extra rudder shift or the decreased rudder shift, my goodness, I am all over the place, really does make it maneuverable and can help you torpedo beat fairly easily too. God, that was a train wreck. Finally, in the sixth slot, you want Concealment System Modification 1, and honestly at this point, really don't know what the point in Target Acquisition System Mod 1 is. I'm kind of surprised it's still in the game, really. Anyways, onto the captain, and I want to throw a big disclaimer right now. This stuff on the screen is what I have for my Arizona captain in ranked, so you're just going to kind of have to listen to what I say and try and remember. But on the Montana, I would run Expert Loader. This is good because, well, okay, another backstory, I have Missouri, so I throw Steven Seagal in there, and I throw him into Montana. Expert Loader, since Steven Seagal has a buff to it, very, very handy for that radar, so I do have this. Otherwise, though, you can probably get preventative maintenance if you don't want this first, or maybe even the direction center catapult thing if you want an extra little fighter or an extra scout plane. You could also go priority target. There are a couple things you could go in this row, but I normally have an expert loader until I get, or since I have rather, Steven Seagal. After that, I will choose the same thing on normal battleships. Expert Marksman, he's a little bit buffed since it's Steven Seagal, but you certainly want the buff that the normal Expert Marksman will give you to your turrets. They definitely make them feel much more snappy as far as battleships go, and definitely a lot more comfortable, especially if you're used to like the Yamato. Like these things turn like a dream. Anyways, you'll want Superintendent in row number 3. After that, you'll want Concealment Expert, and this will get your concealment down with the module included down to 13.4 kilometers, so almost as good as certain cruisers, and actually, I want to say it's even better than cruisers like the Moskva here. So I don't have a captain, excuse me, in the Moskva right now, but you can see right here that even with the concealment module, you would definitely have, I think, pretty much competitive concealment with a tier 10 cruiser. So that definitely says a lot, and it definitely means you should get concealment on the Montana. Surprise, Montana says hi with lots of citadels. Anyways, after that, there are definitely a few choices you can pick in row number 4. I personally was trying out an AA build in that video. Obviously, you guys didn't get to see it because there were no fighters or aircraft carriers. But AFT, pretty much a very, very solid choice on any battleship at tier 10. A very good choice on the Montana due to the buff it will give your AA. I think with AFT, you get, I think, 7.4 kilometer range on your AA guns, so very, very helpful. After that, you could go for fire prevention or possibly manual fire control for your AA, again to maximize the DPS of your AA guns. And there, since you do get 7.4 kilometer range, again, I think, going off the top of my head, with AFT, if you put that with manual AA, you'll get a very, very good damage potential. When you double the damage of these guns, it'll be something like, what, 346 damage, I think? I'm not good at math, really not good at math, especially without like a calculator. But I think 346, and that is 7.4 kilometers with AFT and the AA module here. So having that kind of damage with just your outer ring is very, very helpful. Then when you get into the inner ring, 350 meters, again, I don't have AFT, so this would probably be like 5 point something. Very, very good AA bubble possible by the Montana. Anyways, this has been a very long, very tiring night for me to try and record this, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it short. I think I've probably tried to get this little segment about 6 times now, so not the most overwhelmingly amazing ending, but this is a steaming pile of ships signing off. I hope you guys have a wonderful day or night wherever you are. I'll catch you in game, and I'll see you in the next one. You guys have a good day. Bye.